You're watching Fanboy Versus with your hosts, J.D. Church, Nicole Hale, Chris Triplette, and Chris McFeely.
And you are listening to Fanboy Versus. I am your host, JD, joined this week by Chris McFeely and Nicole Hale. Hello. We have no Triplette today, so we traded Triplette for Nicole and our apparently rotating trio. This week it is Fanboy Versus the Not a Lot of Stuff, as not a lot of stuff came out this week, but we will be versing.
I'm just gonna stop you there, JD. I've just asked the chat if everybody can hear, and XV says the stream is offline.
Yep, it will be for just a minute. It'll come back up. Anyway.
Well, we can edit right back the fuck around that, then.
That's right. It's easier to save the show the way it is than to try to get them to hear, because they will eventually be able to hear the show. So, anyway, we'll talk about Green Lantern near the end of the show. Not just the movie, but we'll also talk about Emerald Knights as well, because that came out like last week.
A double feature for you this week.
Two Green Lantern movies, both crap, apparently.
I liked them both. Apparently, I have bad taste.
I wouldn't say you have bad taste. I say that you have non-jaded taste. Maybe.
I don't think I'm jaded.
I don't know. I think a lot of people are jaded. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying in general. I don't know. And some people have said that the Green Lanterns movie is okay. We'll get to that. I liked Vangelis' comment, which he said that it wasn't as bad as some people are saying, but he wasn't going to White Knight for it, which to me said it's not that great either. So, I don't know. We'll see. So, okay. And
XV's maintaining that the Justin TV stream is completely offline.
That's fine. Then I think the Ustream is working, so we can go to check out.
He says it isn't connecting for him.
Well, we'll have Brian switch it out.
Technology,
hit pause and play again.
There you go. Thanks, Nicole. That's the way to go.
That's how it works.
Oh yeah,
for
okay.
me.
It's working on my end. Yeah, I checked that myself. So,
I think there's just a glitch once it gets started, so it's cool.
Okay. This whole live podcasting business.
I know it's not an exact science.
Not rewarding enough, man.
And some of it's just the tech that we're using to do it is not, especially with I don't know, somewhere between Ustream. It's not. It's all anyway. It doesn't matter. It's tech stuff. Who cares? As long as you can see this show tomorrow, because it'll be on YouTube. But anyway. Which will be today if you're watching on YouTube, because you're watching it today. And today for ever, because it'll be on YouTube for years. So today could be 2015. Anyway, so comic news, not a lot in that venue, I guess.
Well, there is some.
Okay, there's some a little bit. So what we got?
Well, it's all Marvel this week because DC's have out-newsed us over the last couple of weeks, and they don't really have anything left to announce at this point.
No.
So Marvel made a point of announcing that they were going to announce their next big thing earlier this week, and then the news came out that the next big thing was a second ongoing Spider-Man series. Stop them presses, kids.
So wait a minute.
Do we really need another Spider-Man? How many is this?
Well, there's only one.
Two, so it's not like it's crippling or anything.
Well, and is that Ultimate as well as?
Oh, I'm not counting Ultimate because you don't count Ultimate.
So what is the other Spider-Man street?
Amazing, and
this will be two, is what you're saying.
This will be two, yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. We only have one right now because Amazing's bi-monthly.
Okay.
And this is the Avenging Spider-Man, which is a team-up book, in which just sort of centering on Spidey's life as a superhero and as a team, as a member of the Avengers team.
Who asked for this comic?
No, yeah.
I mean, let's just to lay it out here. I mean, we have Spider-Man on Amazing. He's on FF. He's on New Avengers and Avengers. So why do I need another book to tell me he's on a team up? The dude is on every damn... He's Wolverine, for Christ's sake.
Well, it's not as if Spidey's never had a team book in the past or anything in Marvel Team Up, but the answer would seem to be because it's being drawn by Joe Madureira.
Okay.
Yeah. I predict many delays.
I mean, is this going to even get off the ground? I mean, Jesus.
That is the genuine question. I mean, like, seriously, as an ongoing title, can this possibly persist on the basis that it's being drawn by Joe Madureira? How long before a fill-in issue? How long before a late issue? It'll look pretty, but how often will it look pretty?
I just don't see the point. I mean, that's what...
I would be.
I mean, Spider-Man is twice a month. It's still, a $4 title, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
We're getting enough Spidey.
I mean, I love Spider-Man. Do not get me wrong.
But
I love Spider-Man.
He's also in the FF, remember?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's in FF and 2 Avengers titles. 6 comics a month I can read about Spider-Man. I do not need 7. I am good with 6.
That said, it is being written by Zeb Wells. And I like Zeb Wells.
Yeah.
I might check this out.
But like you said, I mean, I don't know. Maybe look at a better fill-in artist.
Well, I mean, I don't know how it can possibly, conceivably operate as an ongoing. I don't know if it's supposed to be monthly or bi-monthly. They've just advertised.
Can we just do it as an annual? Wouldn't that be?
Yeah,
that would be
like a giant size every quarter.
Yeah, and Well,
that's probably too ambitious, to be honest. So that was Marvel's big thing, to counter DC's huge announcement. That was Marvel's next big thing.
Yeah.
Along with the news that Uncanny X-Men was being reported as cancelled with issue 544 in November.
But
then being replaced by Uncanny X-Men #1, shipping in November.
See, we don't make this shit up, folks. Marvel renumbers all the goddamn time.
The longest running Uncanny was the longest running Marvel book that had never been rebooted, and now it is not. Which leaves X-Men Legacy as the longest running book that has never been rebooted. And after that, if that got rebooted, it'd be Astonishing X-Men, which is and if that got rebooted, it'd actually be Avengers Academy.
It'd be FF.
No, Avengers Academy.
It would be Avengers Academy? Seriously?
FF. Oh, Fantastic Four has been rebooted twice, so yes.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, really? Avengers Academy? So we're up to 15 issues, and it's, oh god. Wow. This should tell you something about Marvel. But it's like I said, this is the difference between Marvel and DC, right? DC, Marvel does this shit all the time, and nobody, it's like I hear that they're switching up, they're going from, they're canceling it, going to one again. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. It's Friday, isn't it? I mean, but yeah, DC doesn't. It's like, we have to do this epic sweeping change. Screw that. Whatever. Anyway.
Well, this is coming out of the back of the X-Men event this summer, Schism.
What is that all about?
The X-Men team is going to... It's about the X-Men splitting in two, with one group deciding to follow Cyclops and the other sticking with Wolverine, because it's finally the culmination of the whole plot line about Cyclops running the team like a dick for the last couple of years.
Yeah, but he is a dick. I mean, how... Has he run it any differently than that over...
Progressively more and more Magneto-ish in his methodology over the last couple of years, and people are getting tired of it, and it's an ideological split down the middle of the X-Men. So that's why Uncanny X-Men is ending, to be replaced then with Uncanny X-Men and Wolverine in the X-Men. 2 books to follow the 2 halves of the team as they split off in different directions.
How is Wolverine?
We don't know if... We don't know if Wolverine and the X-Men is replacing another X-Men book or not, because really you would have to hope it does, because that's Uncanny, Legacy, Wolverine and astonishing and adjectiveless X-Men. 5 main X-books without counting the many, many satellite titles. So it should really be used as an excuse to strip down the X-Men line, frankly, if they want to go ahead with that.
Yeah, but isn't that like a whole subgenre thing? I mean, isn't like X-Men almost like a subversion of Marvel?
In the 90s, but I think it just hasn't been able to shake it off, you know?
Yeah.
Because part of this decade, the X-Men have existed off in their own little bubble for the longest time.
It does seem like the X-Men like group. I mean, like that's a very like almost cult like following of like the X books. So I assume they make their numbers at least, but.
Well, the creative teams on these are Jason Aaron, who's the current writer of Wolverine, writing Wolverine and the X-Men, with art by Chris Bacalo, so that's a good creative team. And Uncanny X-Men is being drawn by Carlos Pacheco and Greg Land, but it's being written by Kieran Gillen, and it's a #1, and I think I might check it out. Putting these good creators on this shit.
Hey, you know, it's like they almost figured out how to sell comics.
Only after how many years?
Yeah, I don't know, 60. Yeah, hey, you put quality creators on a comic. Of course, then you go over to DC and they're putting like Landell or whatever. Anyway, how many comics does? Anyway, so what else we got?
That's really all the comic news, but in Marvel continuing news, the Spider-Man musical opened this week.
It did!
It did.
Yes, no more preview shows.
Yes.
For real and for serious true, it opened.
And there was a serious Marvel following there as well. I think that...
yeah, Dan Slott was there.
Dan Slott was there, and with a big group of people.
They had 200 preview shows before the official opening.
Yeah, but I don't know, I watched the Tonys last week.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I watched the Hey, I like the Tonys. It was a good show. And they did show like the one of the love ballads from Turn Off the Dark. It's not bad. Like that particular ballad is not bad. And the unfortunate thing is that show really has to be performed in its own space. So it's not like they could have done any of the really thrilling or interesting numbers, because they couldn't have brought in the tech to do it. And but that one was kind of nice.
I mean, I saw this video advert that they have going around, and there's some crazy shit in there. You can see why it took them as long as it did to actually master that stuff.
Yeah, and I heard it was like standing ovation and stuff at the end. So I mean, I think and you know, that's not something that you just get on Broadway anyway. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I've said it before. I would pay money to see that. Just not the amount of money they're asking.
Broadway has gotten very expensive. I don't want to break it off, but yeah, I mean, I'll just wait till they get really desperate to make their money back and bring it out on DVD. There probably will be a DVD release. I would be surprised if there isn't.
Considering it's the most expensive musical ever.
Exactly.
Well,
it's actually, I say it as a joke, but it's not exactly impossible that there might be a DVD of the thing.
Yeah, the odds for, I mean, typically what happens with a show like this that is so effect-centric, most likely what will happen is it'll play for a year, maybe 2 on Broadway. It'll pick up tent pegs, and it will move to Las Vegas and then set up there.
It's kind of a Vegas sort of show, isn't it?
Yeah, and I would suspect it will play forever in Vegas. So
I could see it working well there.
I watched the little video of it. Like, I just laughed, though, because it's like you could tell you were listening to U2 within the first 3 seconds of the video.
Yeah, exactly.
Start to the thing.
But no, I think, and it should be, maybe it'll be a little bit cheaper once it moves to Vegas and stuff. I would totally go. I mean, I would love to see it on Broadway, but yeah, I mean, that's like, you're paying you're paying like $100 for like, standing tickets, and so that's like a couple of days involvement to get into a new Broadway show, no matter what it is, really. So I don't know. I'm excited. I hope it does better. I mean, I don't want it to lose money. I want it to be good, and I've heard that the rewrite is good. So
it's got Swarm in it.
Yeah, it's there is so many villains.
Get over that.
So many villains in this show.
Now, as I understand it, the first act is basically Spider-Man the movie. And then for the second act, the Green Goblin puts like the Sinister Six together, or some team of baddies or something. And one of them is Swarm.
I really want the soundtrack for the show.
I wanted to see it before, they cleaned up everything. I really wanted to see the accidents.
Oh, you just hoped somebody was going to die in front of you.
I don't want anyone to die. I just wanted to see someone, get hurt.
Nah, I mean,
That's so much better.
And that's really bad, because some of those people, I mean, it's like, you hurt yourself, your career is over, So.
I know. Sometimes mishaps are the fun things about shows.
This is not NASCAR, okay? This is Broadway. But anyway.
Don't video ideas. Broadway on NASCAR and Broadway.
Oh my God, I could see that working. There they go. We need a musical of the Dale Earnhardt Jr. story.
I believe
man.
it's called Cars.
Cars. That's a little bit different, but we'll run with it. So anyway, one last thing I want to mention for news, unless there's any other news that we need to mention.
No, that's all I have. It's a quiet week.
I have to make a little bit of a confession.
This is newsworthy.
So I was at my shop this week, and I was talking about the we got on discussion of Superman, my shop owner and one other guy, and the topic of Superman came up, and I of course gave my reasons for not liking Superman, and once again it was suggested to me that I should read All-Star Superman. And I was like, I'd seen the film, whatever. Like, no, you got to read it, And my owner happened to have the first and second of the paper trades, and cut me a decent deal on them. And so I took them home and furiously devoured them. Could not put them down. I liked it.
Whoa.
You was told, son.
I liked it. It was really good. I was.
Yeah.
It was somewhere between just the very sort of subtle. I mean, this was a very subtle but yet interesting Grant Morrison. It was just really, just the something about just the way it was written was just very open and really just. I don't want to say it was simple in terms of it was simplistic, but it was just enough. It was like utilitarian. It was, and then the art was just incredible, and just pages of beautiful art, and I just could not put it down. I have to say that at this point, Superman's going to probably be on my list.
Really?
Action Comics, yeah. Action Comics.
The Action Comics, the Grant Morrison.
Yeah.
So now, did you go back and rewatch All-Star Superman after you read it?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that.
I did start it. I started earlier and realized I wasn't going to have time to get through it. So I think I might do that.
Like you, I did not like the movie. It was very slow.
I think it's going to be one of those things for me that's I think I can tell now that I've read it, I think the film is going to be better because I know what the blanks are. And so I think it'll fill in those, now that I know where all the blank pieces are, I think it'll fill that in for the movie in my head, and I won't notice what's missing anymore. So it's probably, even just watching the little bit of it, it seemed better than it was. So, I'll rewatch it and let you know, probably on Twitter, as far as what I think. But man, it was just, I got to the end, I'm like, I'm done. Why is it? No, should keep going.
I'm honestly surprised by that because, that's what we were saying when we were talking about the film. Is that I don't know how much of a relevance All-Star Superman has to the public perception of Superman today, but I guess that didn't matter in this case.
No, like I said, I think that there's a couple of things that I think make it a good comic, and in spite of it being like a Superman comic, because he's a little bit different mentally. You can tell that he sees the world differently, and he's his enhanced powers have changed. a little bit of how he sees the world. But there's still some like great Lex moments that I think sort of captured my concept between that struggle between Lex and Superman. I mean, because Lex even calls him like a socialist or fascist, I think, at one point, you know. It was, like I said, it was very utilitarian in terms of the story. I didn't feel like there was anything that was just, or if there was, it wasn't very much like superfluous. You know, there wasn't, everything sort of fit together, and it's in that Morrison way, all of those pieces, even the early things that just sort of seemed, you know, unimportant, became important at later points. And so
that is what the Indians called a Grant Morrison story.
Yes. Yeah, and it worked very, and that's why I say I think I'm interested in seeing him do Superman in an ongoing, because I'll be interested to see where that path goes. It's also an opportunity for anybody, you know, like me that came in at the end of like the Morrison Batman run to start at the beginning. You know,
that's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I can pick up this, you know, action and start at the beginning of Morrison doing something new, and that seems very exciting for me. But also, like I said, because I really genuinely was interested in his version of Superman. I mean, this comic was not weighted down by other elements, and maybe that's something that made it better too. Sometimes a story can really get weighted down by the things that are going on around it in the world in an editorial sense, and this being a sort of separate world didn't get weighted down by those things.
Would you say Lois Lane was more likable in the comic than the movie?
I think so. I think the movie played up certain elements that weren't expressed that way in the comic. One of my complaints in the film was like the competition between Samson and Atlas and that whole thing. And I thought that the way that was portrayed in the comic was much more Lois playing with them rather than playing with Superman, because her lines and comments to Superman were like, you know, you're my guy. I'm just screwing with them. And so that made much more sense than her, you know, her whatever she was doing as far as with Superman or how she was actually feeling. I think in the movie it was almost portrayed like she was a little more flighty in that sense. So yeah, I mean, I was fine with Lois, you know, in the comic version. Like I said, it was solid. There's good stuff in there that didn't make it in the film that was kind of fun. The Bizarro piece was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think when most people talk about what they're sad is missing from the film, the Bizarro story is one of the big ones.
And it's an important piece, too, because that gets seeded so early, you know, in terms of understanding that, you know, the Dr. Quinton or whatever it is. That he's, you know, that those are like Bizarro clones, and then that becomes like, you know, you see this whole like Bizarro world and with Zimbaro, it's just crazy. But anyway, good stuff.
Let's check it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's really like, yeah, I mean, definitely, it was worth it. I got to cut a good deal on it too. I got several dollars off of that comic. So anyway,
well, I picked up a trade because of you guys.
So
yeah, so I picked up Booster Gold.
Ooh,
Booster Gold trade. Yeah,
very nice.
What booster did you get?
Pickup 56, is that what it's called?
Oh, 52 pickup.
52.
The first one, excellent.
Okay,
That's the best.
When people are like, "Oh, you got to pick up 52," I thought that the series was just called 52. I didn't know that the title was Pickup 52.
That's just the volume. That's just the title of the first volume of Booster.
Yeah, so yeah, I picked
52
it up.
pickup is that, but you also have to pick up 52.
So yeah,
the series itself, 52.
And I'll just say the chat is fairly certain that the end times are here.
Yes.
Because I like something Superman. So, you know, like I said, I'm qualifying that with it is Grant Morrison writing Superman in a bottle universe. You know, it may be very different when he has to write Superman existing in Jeff Johns' universe. So,
well, they're saying that Action Comics is going to be set in the early years of his career.
So yeah, and so we'll see. We'll see. I'm just.
You shall see.
No, the time travel one. That's probably the one that I really liked out of that. Now they say that was really good.
I guess I should go read this.
They totally left that part out with like the unknown Superman of He was like playing the unknown Superman of the year 4500.
Yeah.
Anyway. Comics, shall we?
Yeah.
We're not going to talk a lot of comics this week. There's not a lot of great titles that came out, so I think
it's all crossovers, you know. Which is not to demean the quality of them.
No.
It's not like being crossovers made them bad.
Hey.
It's just like there's only so many times we could say this comic was about somebody with a hammer turning up.
Yeah, really. Or this is a comic about, crazy stuff. So, yeah,
This version is an alternate history with a lot of sidelong jokes that you'll only get if you understand the mainstream history.
Right.
All right, I think I reviewed this week's comics there.
There you go. All right, we're done. All right, move on to Green Lantern. Nicole, what did you want to talk about this week?
Okay, people know my love for this story, so I'm going to do a quick review on the newest Dark Tower. This is a new series that's coming out. It is the Dark Tower, the Gunslinger. This is, okay, for people who have read Dark Tower, or if you want to get into Dark Tower, this is like the perfect starting point, because this starts off where the first novel started off at. So as you can see, I got tons of
Can you do me a favor? I'm one of those people that doesn't know what the hell Dark Tower is. Can you a 2-minute or less synopsis of what Dark Tower is exactly?
Well, let's see. It's a massive epic story that Stephen King has done over the span of about 30 years. There's 7 books in it. It starts off with Roland Duchesne. He is a gunslinger of this land that time has passed on it. It's another world from ours. And he is searching for a man in black who has pretty much done his whole family wrong. And during this time, he's also searching for the quest of the Dark Tower. The Dark Tower is like his ultimate goal. But you don't find what that truly is until the last book. So during his time, he picks up his quartet, basically the travelers that make this journey with him so that his goal can be met with the Dark Tower and the Man in Black. Like I said, it's about, I'd say it's nearly 8,000 pages if you want to read the whole series.
I'll pass.
No, not
Wait, I can do it in a picture book?
Probably about 6,000. It's really good.
But I can do it in a picture book version? I'm sold.
Okay, so there's already been, 44 issues of this comic, and now we've just got, with this comic book, we have started off with the first novel. So
how did they do that?
Basically, the comics lately, beforehand, was the time of when Roland was younger. His story of his upbringing, his boyhood. Basically, it's book 5 in the Dark Tower series. It's kind of like a prequel. And there's also a couple short stories that Stephen King has written through the years that was also thrown into there. So this is the perfect starting point if you don't want to read the huge novels, but you want to get this story. This is the best time to get it, because it's almost because I actually compared them. I got these two together, compared them side by side.
This is a true fan, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to know what a true fan is, here you go.
Well, I don't know if you can tell, but I have little notes in my books, and I've got all.
Oh my God! You are making geeks look not so geek. I feel more awesome now. I feel well adjusted now.
I'm the one that is so more excited for this movie than anyone, I swear.
Oh, that's awesome.
But, so in the comic book, you see Roland rolling into a town. It's kind of like the beginning of an epic Western. You could just hear the music going behind, in the background. And everything's kind of like in old Western kind of poetry kind of way. The reason why a lot of people don't like the Dark Tower series is because they use their own kind of language. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings, You just got to get used to it, but it's easy to pick up. You know it. They're like Kenn, IT is know it. So that's one thing that you could pick up. So Roland rolls into town, and he's looking for a horse. I need a horse. And unfortunately, because this land has passed on over time, a lot of things has happened, a lot of destruction. Most of the horses are mutants, and they're not like the friendly X-Men mutants. They have like 6 eyes, 2 heads, and I don't know if you could see that. There's a horse there with 2 heads.
That's amazing.
And yeah, so
do you have to feed it more? I know.
Probably. Yeah, this horse has
stomach.
That's what I'm saying. Does it have one stomach, but it's got 2 heads? Is it? I don't know.
2 heads. Yeah, so he's looking for what's it called, threaded stock. And so, of course, people, if you want something threaded, you got to pay for it. But again, Roland has some things on his side because him being a gunslinger, he was born not really to royalty, but to a hierarchy. So people know that he has money. So they kind of use him for it. But so he could get his way around. Again, it's just setting up what's going on. He gets his horse. He does find out information about the Man in Black that he's seeking out. The Man in Black is the one that's kind of screwed him over his whole life. Basically, well, I guess I should say he basically screwed his mother literally, and he walked in on him and everything. So he didn't like that.
Right on.
He
See, XV, there is a beast with 2 backs. XV asked if there was a beast with 2 backs in terms of the 2 heads, and it's like, see, there is. I knew it.
Yeah, so
Wordplay.
there's everything in this series, I tell you. So,
thanks, Bill.
then he travels on into the desert following the Man in Black, and he comes across Tull. Tull is this horrible, horrible town with a lot of mutant people. Again, not the prettiest of people. And so he's trying to get information
I recognize
out of
that name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they're trying to get information. He's trying to get information about the Man in Black. And apparently the only woman that knows is the barkeep or the innkeeper. And she's like, I will tell you. Her name's Allie. I'll tell you, but you have to give me something. And so he shows her some gold. She's like, that's not what I want. I haven't been with a man for a long time. So guess what he does?
Yeah, right. Because that happens.
He wants the information, so basically he gets with her, and her boyfriend walks in, and now the war started.
Oh, jeez.
So that's the beginning of. This one seemed really short. I don't think it was a full comic, but it was a good setup for what's going to be happening.
So
Yay.
what company puts out the tabletop game for this?
There isn't one yet.
Oh, come on.
Really?
Seriously? That is shocking. That's more shocking than anything else. That's more shocking than the Superman thing if there is not a tabletop game.
Yeah.
Sure. But the great thing about this series, and one reason why I like it, is because Stephen King is part of the direction of this comic book, so you know it's going to be handled very well.
How much of a part, though? I mean...
he's the creative director and executive director, and he has been marked down for writer.
Executive director is a title you give to somebody when you want to put them on the book, but you don't want them to actually do anything.
But he if you go onto his blog, he's very well involved with it.
Okay,
so.
that's cool. That is cool if he is trying to guide it and stuff, you know. Because there's a lot of stuff where they're like, oh yeah, George Lucas is totally involved in this, and you're like, there's no way that George Lucas is. Yeah, really.
Some of the best art. I love the artwork that's in here. This is for
Who's the creative team on this besides King himself?
Okay, we have Robin Firth, Peter David, Michael Lark, Stefano Guadino, Richard Eisenhoe, and VC Joe Sabino.
Peter David's still at it, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, wow.
Yeah,
Peter David's been doing part of these books for a while. I wasn't sure if I lost track of them.
Yeah, they really haven't changed up a lot of the people that have been doing this.
I like their continued dedication to this because it's been going for a while now, and the sales, even though they have a new miniseries every time, the sales never ever pick up. It's not like a new #1 increases the sales of this. No. It's always on constant decline, but I admire their dedication, much like I admire their dedication to the Oz books that they're doing.
I'm sure if fans of the Dark Tower find out that this is the beginning of the novelizations, it'll come out, because what people really like is the start of the next book, when the quartet comes involved, when Roland isn't traveling by himself, when he gets his group together. And then he's doing time travel, and he does travel between worlds and stuff. So that's gonna be really good. Wow. Oh yeah, there's everything in this series. There's monsters. There's
not a tabletop. I still refuse to believe that.
So yeah, and if you want to geek out with me, I will be marking it down in my book each week as well.
Wow. Okay.
Yes,
do you read The Stand as well?
I haven't read the latest ones, but because I like to get those in trades. Of course, I get the Dark Tower in trades as well.
That's a series that does a lot of its business in trade anyway.
It definitely most of these series, the Dark Tower ones, read better in trade, because you get the full stories. Like the last one, the Little Sisters of Illyria, that will definitely do better in trade because the whole story arc is what you need. I highly recommend it, especially if you're a Dark Tower fan.
Nice.
I got my Dark Tower shirt on, you know.
Oh, okay. Is that what?
I would not know what that was.
Yeah, I have no.
This is
more
the
like
the Eye of the what?
Crimson King. He's like the ultimate baddie.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
More like a series of fortunate events.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Cool.
That
okay.
is my review.
All right. Very nice. So. Let's see. I am going to be talking about a Flashpoint tie-in, which is crazy because, you know. So this one is Wonder Woman and the Furies. Huh?
Is there so few of them going about?
Yeah, I know. It's like there's so few. I read this one, and I read the Dead Man and the Graysons, and the Flying Graysons. This one actually had... This is like a lot of backstory, which is why I'm kind of talking about it. The other one was good-ish. I mean, it was good. It was just... sort of building up to the action that's going to happen in the next issue. So it was a good hook to get the next, whereas this one I sort of read and I'm like, okay, cool. I think that's what I needed to know. So that's why I'll talk about it. Let's see. This is Abnett and Lanning. So
now, which one is this one that you're doing?
This is Wonder Woman and the Furies. I did really no idea what to expect out of it.
The Furies.
Yeah. So I guess that's what she's calling her army. But I wasn't really sure what to expect out of it, which was nice. This is essentially the prequel, I would get. I mean, as best to label it, to the events of the current world. Basically, it starts out with Diana deciding to take a trip. She makes a boat and travels out into the world. Now, we know, I mean, you know, it depends on what, I guess, history you're looking at. Anyway, what happens is that she doesn't meet an American dude at all. She meets Aquaman because she's attacked by a kraken, I guess they say. Yes. Kraken, however you want to say that. And Aquaman actually saves her. She gets stung. He takes her back to Atlantis and nurses her back to health. Now, what this does is sort of sets up diplomatic relations between Themyscira.
Sets up a certain kind of relation.
Well, yeah, that comes later. It sort of sets up a diplomatic relation between Themyscira and Atlantis, and they both figure out, hey, we're really old advanced civilizations. We should be telling this modern world how it's done. And what better way than to do it together? So Wonder Woman and Aquaman decide that they're going to get married to join the two nations in sort of, in a very sort of classic way that I mean, that worked well for France and England, right? So, anyway, you have to know your history, people.
Don't bring real life into this.
You have
Don't
to know.
Come at me with your book learning.
You know.
That's why we read comics, to get away from life.
That's right. I mean, you have to know your hit. I'm sorry. You know.
Come at me with your fancy education.
Thankfully, most of our listening audience is British, and they actually know history. As opposed to the American audience, like, what? Did it work out? We didn't know.
All the Americans know is that we beat the English.
Right. We don't even.
At one point.
You know, all I can think of is like Eddie Izzard, right? It's like, this building was constructed over 50 years ago. Yeah, that's so true.
Oh my God.
Yes. So anyway, we sort of jump forward to the wedding day. And there does seem to be reservations on each side. But there is a bit of things go south. As a shadowy figure, right at the beginning of the wedding ceremony, throws a lance at Diana, and her mom jumps in the way of it and dies.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, but we're supposed to think it's Garth because he's had reservations about this whole thing, but it turns out it's Artemis in his armor, and she beats the crap out of him and puts his armor back on him. And says, there's your culprit. So it completely sabotages basically the whole process. And that's how the war sort of begins. But it was started on both sides. It was sort of like some of Aquaman's, other parts of his royalty orchestrated it with them. So they basically worked together to undermine the royal wedding and then the union, which basically is just causing, eventually, I would assume, to them to break out in war. It's very well written. The pace is good. You don't really know where it's necessarily. I mean, you kind of get an idea where it's going, but in terms of who's involved and what happened, it was actually very interesting. It's a good read, and it was nice to kind of understand how they're saying that the large shot. I mean, because again, this war between Themyscira and Atlantis is a big part of what's screwing up the world. I mean, if you think about what's happened in the other tie-ins or the other mainline comics, you know, everyone's paranoid of running into either the Amazons or the Atlanteans. So, and that was a big part of like the Deadman and the Flying Graysons as well, because they were basically they're stuck in Europe and trying to stay away from the coast and everything. So. So this is good. I might pick up the second issue. I don't know. I definitely want to pick. It's kind of weird. Like I said, I reviewed this one, but I felt like I got everything I needed, and I'm not like heavily motivated to pick up the next issue. Whereas the Dead Man and the Flying Graysons, where it ended off and where that story is going.
So how many is in this series, or is it ongoing?
It's 3 each, I think, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's 3 each for all the tie-ins.
3 of each.
So like I said, I probably will end up next time talking about the Flying Graysons, and I'll recap what happens in that one. Because that is interesting. Again, it's pre-dead man, alive man. No.
No.
It's Bruce Boston.
Didn't make any sense.
No. I mean, because this is the odd thing to remember about Dead Man is like his circus performing act was Dead Man. So even before he was dead man, he was alive dead man.
We need like a chart.
Don't squint at me, McFeely. You know that's right.
No, it's right, but that doesn't make it okay.
Anyway, a lot of tie-ins this week. So anyway, but that was one of them. So it was good. Like I said, just for the political stuff, it was kind of fun. I like that kind of stuff. So anyway, all right, McFeely, there you go, sir.
I'm all tie-ins this week, and I'm only going to talk about one of them. I'm only going to talk about Avengers Academy, because the other stuff I read, Alpha Flight, continues to be good after the Zero issue. Yep. Avengers, another very long fight scene issue, which is perfectly fine, but very dull. Fear Itself, Youth and Revolt is also better than the first issue, and Cloud9 gets a new costume, and I really shouldn't be as excited and happy about that as I am, but her old costume fucking sucked so hard. She's got a great aviatrix look now, so it's good.
You know, I wish you got more passionate about things, McFeely.
Yeah.
I can just never tell.
So laid back.
I'm so sedate. And I also read, the only non-crossover thing I read this week was Tiny Titans, which I'm not going to talk about at length, except to say that It is
It was fun.
definitely. It was much more. It was back on form after last month's kind of dodgy Croc issue, and it's about the kid, all the various Flash and Fast characters, Inertia and Jesse Quick and Kid Flash and Massey Manos from Teen Titans having a race around the world, and also Blue Beetle tries to open up a lemonade stand, and Wonder Girl decides she wants to.
Free is, and it becomes a lemon free lemonade.
It only becomes lemon free at the end because they wrecked the thing. Yeah.
Wow.
Tastes like water.
It's got Lobo in it.
And yeah, Coach Lobo pops up in this as well. He's appeared before. And Wonder Girl decides that she wants to start wearing a mask for some reason. It's very random and totally in the middle of the issue and doesn't lead to anything. So I wonder if there's something coming up in a later issue, because there's a solicitation for a month or two down the line where it talks about the mask again. So I don't know where they're going with that. But one thing I want to share about this before we go is that the opening gag is how Cyborg comes up to Gizmo, who's taken apart the pencil sharpener in school, because he thinks that it's making the pencil points a little too sharp. And Kid Flash sticks his head in and goes, "That's right! I sharpened mine to a point! A Kid Flash point!"
Oh, God. No.
That was my immediate reaction.
No.
Look how happy he is.
Yeah, let's get her.
Oh, my God. Wow.
And that's why you should read Tiny Titans.
That's awesome.
They're never afraid to poke a little fun at they had a Blackest Night thing. They had a finals crisis whenever Lunch Lady Darkseid became principal for a day and made sure everybody took their exams. Finals. They had a finals crisis.
Oh my God.
If you've ever thought that Tiny Titans was just for children.
It's so fun. Like, if it doesn't make you laugh, this series, it definitely puts a smile on your face while you're reading it.
Make you laugh. There is no joy in your heart.
Yes.
I've said it before. You're cold and dead and wrong inside. No.
On to other things.
Avengers Academy does not really merit a full blow-by-blow description of the content of the issue, because it's summed up by saying, Absorbing Man and most of the faculty head off to round up the escapees from the raft, necessitating, because the superhuman community is short-staffed because of the worldwide chaos, that Tigra leads the kids into the battle in Washington. And that's the issue. They're battling in Washington. So it is a collection of what Avengers Academy does best, introspective character moments dotted throughout as they're faced with the terrible realities of everything that they've been training for. And this, to me, is an example of something I haven't really had a chance to talk about in the present tense on this show regarding Christos Gage's writing, which is that with it happened with the Initiative, and now it's finally happening with Avengers Academy as well, is that every time a big crossover event comes along, Gage is able to take it and roll with it as if it was where it was always headed. Avengers, the Initiative, was always much more beholden to the whims of the Marvel Universe, because as a concept it only existed because of a crossover, and as a central fixture of the superhuman community, it was always subject to big changes. So whenever Secret Invasion happened, it turned out there was a Skrull on every Initiative team. And whenever Norman Osborn took over Hammer, the whole Initiative was rebuilt underneath him. And yet, with every subsequent big change that was forced upon it, Gage took it and rolled with it and kept on doing the stories that he was doing, folding them into the concepts that was pushed upon the series and making it feel like the most natural thing in the world. And in the case of Avengers Academy, it truly is, because it's the kids' first big crossover. It's their first look at a world-shaking crossover event, which is something every young superhuman has to face up to multiple times in their life. Once every summer, I believe.
Once a year.
And this is the kids finally, facing up. They've only had, it's been small potatoes for them. I mean, they beat Korvac, yes, but that was a personal conflict with somebody with great power. This is an immense enemy all around the world. You have all these wonderful uses of the technology and just the concepts that Academy has set up, where Tigra is able to quickly lift the wounded to hospitals all around the country through use of the infinite mansions doors. And Metal, once again, gets one of the best moments in the entire drama.
Cried. Oh my God.
Really?
Yes.
One of the Nazi mechs is literally, he's thinking that they're, Stryker is already freaking out. It's wonderful. There's only been a couple of issues, but Stryker has suddenly been redefined by the fact that he in the body of his future self died during the fight with Korvax. So he is absolutely terrified. He's been faced with the cold reality of what this life could lead to for him, and he is not hacking it well. So whenever he manages to pull himself around, Metal gets a little rallied by the sight of this as well and thinks, we might just do this. And then suddenly a Nazi mech just machine guns a whole crowd of people, and Metal uproots a lamppost, hurls it at the mech, lamppost shoots right through it, and it's ripped open to reveal that the pilot is dead, impaled on the lamppost. The gunner is still there, but Metal is I killed him, and the gunner opens fire on him, and he doesn't even feel the bullets as they rip the clothes off of his body, blow it to fragments. He just stands there staring as he realized what he's done, you know. And the first thing he says is, Tigra says, "You had to." He was shooting people, and he's like, "No, he was just the pilot. The gunner was doing the shooting." And Tigra has to talk. Tigra has to say, you know, this is where the line is between us and them. You did it because you had to, not because you chose to. And it's not like it's a horrible thing or whatever, but she has to lean in and say to him, I need to know you can do it again. This is where we are. He can. I mean, Tigra leaps in tears after having to make this poor child, because that's what he is, a child, say that he is ready to do that. Oh, Metal, you have been out of the spotlight for a while, but you're just reminding me why I latched onto you immediately. All too often, the monster character, like the Hulk or the Thing or whatever, has to come to terms with their strength and realize that they're perfectly normal inside and they can have normal lives. Metal is having thrust upon himself the fact that it is, talk about a baptism of fire. Like, I mean, he is being faced like, you know, I need you not to do it. So good. And this... Metal's the one who gets the primary attention as out of the kids, apart from that moment with Stryker, because the whole issue is mostly narrated by Tigra, who is running from child to child, trying to keep their heads in the game, while at the same time facing up to all the death that is around her and remembering things from her past that it eerily... This is destroying her as much as, if not more than, these children. It's like, this is what this lifestyle does to you, and she is, viewing herself as she's the one that's led them into this because she's had to, and it's like it's the same way that Metal is getting this horrible taste of doing what you have to do. Tigra's getting it as well, but it's so much. Even though she's been doing this for years, and he's only just starting out with it. It doesn't hit either one of them any harder because it's just as terrible for each and the other. And then Giant Man is busy. Giant Man is the other POV character in this. They clear up the raft inmates, and then the word comes in that the Absorbing Man and Titania are rampaging through Dubai, where Giant Man really wants to go and help the students, but that damn morality comes into it, and nobody's in Dubai. Defend the place, so he has to leave his students and go and fight the Absorbing Man. And this is a big rematch between him and the Absorbing Man from about 8 issues ago as well, so that's going to be big next issue whenever they get down to it. But that is the long and the short of this issue. Tremendous character work, which is always out of the Academy delivers on, producing a crossover issue that feels in no way forced or interruptive to the flow of what the series is doing, and is going to roll on for a couple more issues, and I'm sure have some big repercussions. What was it Gage said in the point 1 issue? By the time this is over, someone's not going to be here anymore. And much like the earliest issues of Avengers Academy, always left me wondering who the characters most likely to turn into villains were. Is like out of the gate with Metal. You could imagine this will be the guy who won't be able to hack it anymore, but this is issue 1. We got a bunch of issues to go, and I don't even want to think about some of the terrible shit these poor kids are going to go through in the course of this.
You know, and I love that he basically really tied it back in with like the quote from the end, and then which is the title of it as well, which is that in war there are no unwounded soldiers, and yeah,
unwounded soldiers.
Yep. So
yeah,
I am so glad I am reading this now.
I don't tell you these things for the good of my health.
I mean, this is just...
And who would have thought, really, that a crossover moment like this would be such an excellent point to jump onto a book, you know? I mean, it's so rare that you can genuinely say that a crossover is amplifying the emotions and the character work present in the book. This is what Christos Gage, God knows how he does it, but this is what he consistently has managed to do for as long as he's been writing the Initiative and the Academy. He's made the crossovers work for him and actively improved his book through them, rather than feeling stymied for them or just going through the motions with them, as you may notice in this week's Avengers.
Yeah, I have to say, that even at the beginning of this issue, like as I was just starting, when it's like, okay, you kids have to go to DC, I'm like, really? We're still fighting in DC? Totally worth it.
Yeah.
Totally worth it. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Good.
Holy Spirit itself will pull a few extra readers in for Avengers Academy.
This was by far the best thing I read this week, so easily. And I liked Alpha Flight, but that was good.
Alpha Flight was good, but it was just as good as the first issue. You know, I don't think we can add.
I needed to pick that one up.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to play catch up from the last month.
The best part of Alpha Flight was the last page when you just go. So.
Oh my god!
And I picked this up.
I believe I read that the September solicits actually managed to spoil that last page.
Oh.
But
I wasn't spoiled, so that was good. And I picked this up for like half price. So
brilliant.
Yep. So yeah, they had half price back issues.
Tell the listeners what it is.
That's they should have seen it. Was I'm sorry. Yes,
the
listeners. There's like 2 people that listen to this. Anyway, Batwoman 0. And they desperately tried to get me to buy the trade before. I'm going to read that, and then I might get.
Now, is that the one that Gail Simone's on, or is that the one that Gail Simone's on?
No, Gail Simone's on Batgirl. This is Batwoman.
Oh, okay.
I had this described to me as, that's why she's Batwoman, because she's just a woman Batman. So that sounds good. I can go with that. So we'll see. I haven't got to read it yet. I've got that, and I'm still behind on Journey into Mystery from last week. I didn't get to read that yet, so I have some stuff to read. Anyway, so awesome. That's your comics for this week. Now we're going to talk about movies. Let's start with let's talk Emerald Knights first. So Emerald Knights was touted to us as a sort of follow-up on the concept-ish, but not in execution in terms of the Gotham Knights, I think. That basically was like a culmination of a group of Green Lantern stories. And it was a culmination of Green Lantern stories that was sort of crap.
I don't think so. I thought there were some fun ones.
I enjoyed it.
Here's my problem with it.
I had fun with it.
I am the detractor.
I really liked it.
I'll lay it out, and then I'll let you all make it sound good. My problem... I don't know. My problem with it is it seemed like it was stories I was being told and not stories I was watching. And I understand, trying to do, a connective narrative and say, here's all these interesting stories, but we just don't want to jump from one story to the next. So we're going to find an interesting way to tell it. And that's fine, except that instead of saying that and then letting it lead into those stories and then just telling those stories because it's a visual medium and you can just let it play out, most of them ended up being, narrated. And that was really annoying.
I don't think many of them were narrated. The first one was narrated.
There was 3 of them.
Mogo's was narrated, but you needed a narrator on Mogo's story.
Then why do... I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like, could you do another story without the narrator?
You're telling me that you didn't want Mogo Doesn't Socialize to be in
the thing is, if you don't know who Mogo was, I watched this with a couple of people that don't know anything about Green Lantern. They were truly surprised about Mogo and who he was. Oh my God, my hair will not work.
I mean, I get it. It's Roddy Piper. It was decent, but
yeah, that. Well, I mean, I felt that kind of, for me, summed up the whole film. It's like I enjoyed it, But I feel I would have enjoyed it more if I didn't already know every one of those stories inside and out.
Yeah. And they were some thoroughly accurate retellings. I mean, I assumed that Mogo Doesn't Socialize would be in it, but when you already know who Mogo is, it's like it's a joke when you already know the punchline, really. Right, exactly.
See, like I said, I watched it with some people because we wanted to watch this before we saw the movie, and I honestly thought that these stories were a good way to introduce people that don't know Green Lantern stuff all that well. I thought it was a good way to introduce certain characters that they should know. So
yeah, I mean, I can see that it was trying to be like a pre-Green Lantern movie kind of deal, but even in that, though, the timeline was really, like, I couldn't, that was the part that just kept confusing me just from, like, an external standpoint, because I'm like, I don't know when we are. That's what, I'm like.
Well, it was
Hal's been a Green Lantern at least for a little while. Sinestro's still there. The crisis already happened.
Oh, leave that out, for goodness sake. That's an animated thing.
Okay.
Worry about the crisis.
You know. So anyway. I don't know. It just wasn't. I just kind of felt like I was being told. I still felt like I was being told a lot of things that I would have rather just watched or had those stories told in a different way.
The bridging story seemed kind of unnecessary.
You mean like
unnecessarily convoluted.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you got to tell me about Krona. You got to tell me about the antimatter universe. You got to tell me about shadow demons. You got to tell me about the crisis. Yeah, no, you could probably just have had somebody studying. I mean, the bridging story for the original Mogo Doesn't Socialize comic is Aricia is reading the Book of Oa, and Tomar Ray tells her story.
Yeah,
see, like that. I don't think you really needed the big dramatic.
And maybe that's why it kind of threw me off, because it's like I didn't feel like I gained anything from that story, and I didn't feel like there was anything about it that was particularly thrilling. I don't know. It just.
How dare you say that about Nathan Fillion? Hello.
He's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I love the guy, but why not? I mean, and not to say you have to retell his origin, but I mean, certainly there's a more like even if you would have placed it a little bit later, and you could have done like the Fall of Sinestro story or something. I don't know. There's more interesting story. There's a more interesting way to tell the stories that they told than with the odd narrative that they put together to tell it with. But anyway, that's all the negative stuff. Why don't you talk about the stuff you liked?
I enjoyed it pretty much. I didn't know the first Lantern story, so that was the only one I didn't know. But I was surprised then when the Kilowog story was the second one up, and I was like, have I seen this before? Wait, no, I read this comic. What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
It was so many of them were like. I mean, the first Lantern story was good. The Kilowog story was pretty good. I really enjoyed the Kilowog story. The Lyra story went on too long. It was just dull.
That was my favorite one because there was no narration. It was a good story. Like, it stood on its own, and I didn't need, it's like, I didn't have to be told anything that was going on in that story. It was great. That was the one I liked.
The Kilowog story either.
I think the thing with the Kilowog story, I mean, and maybe this is the problem, is that, some of those stories we know too well. It's just like, I know Kilowog's, story too well. And it's like, I'm watching it going, okay, yes, can we, get to okay, yes, and then he's gonna. Okay,
that was exactly the reaction. I mean, I had
yeah.
It wasn't that I knew the Lyra story inside and out. It was just like, could we get onto a character who matters?
Well, and that's kind of maybe why it's because it's like a character that's not as prominent, and so it was sort of interesting to see a less prominent character.
You're going to do a film about the birth of the Green Lanterns, Kilowog, the classic seminal Mogo story, Abin Sur, and that's it. The fuck is Lyra doing in there?
She kind of, but that character
had a female view on stuff.
Yeah, there was no female.
You gotta
there
bring
was no
the
other
chicks
female
in.
lantern.
Trying to see if that's why that was there. Yeah. I just didn't feel that was like as an action story. I didn't feel it was particularly well choreographed either, and I think it had some of the weakest animation out of the set as well. It was animated. It felt more like it was animated on 2s and 4s rather than 1s and 2s. And
How are we so separate on this, McFeel? I don't understand.
I don't know.
What's
I don't give a fuck about Lyra. It's probably part of it.
I mean, not that. Okay. Anyway, I mean, like I said, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't unwatchable. I don't want to say it wasn't. It was
definitely.
Just
that was the low point for me. I enjoyed the rest of it heartily.
So,
I found it really
although
fun. I liked it.
I'd say what I thought was weird was I was expecting something more in the line of like Animatrix or Gotham Knights or Halo Legends, where each segment would be different. Because each of those segments, you'll notice that if you look at the end credits, each of them is separately credited with their own writers and their own animation directors, and you wouldn't know it to look at it. It's like
No,
it
visually,
really felt,
yeah,
they're all completely homogenous. It's all the same style, and it particularly, I mean, I can after Gotham Knights didn't go down that well, I quite liked Gotham Knights, but generally speaking, it seems to be pretty widely regarded as one of the weaker DC animated movies. The exploration of all the different visual styles, works pretty well for Batman because it's just a character with such a history who's been depicted in so many different ways. But for the Green Lantern Corps, where there are so many different body forms and cultures and types of creatures, it seemed like a complete missed opportunity to not animate them in a different style each,
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I can see why you would do that in a production standpoint because, again, you're sort of seeing this as a preview to the movie that's coming out, and, if the audience is saying, I don't understand why there's all these different art forms, just make it homogenous, and then, that's an easy fix.
Yeah, but I just, as a showcase, I think it probably would have improved the movie for me, to be honest. It would have given me something different to look at with each chapter,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it would have been something...
I don't think it was actively worse for it. I just think I would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah. I just would have liked the narration, but that's just me.
There wasn't that much narration.
There wasn't.
See, I don't remember that much, but...
No. Mogos needs a narrator.
I guess it seemed kind of forced. It's like there was so much of every time a new story was coming around, it's like, okay, here's the next story. And maybe that's what really bothered me was, again, that narrative piece that kind of strung it all together. Like, I would have been happier if it was just, like, something that was just, a librarian going to the next story would have been just as fine.
A scenario where they're reading stories instead of maybe getting ready for the giant cosmic fight.
Right, yeah, because that would so.
Well, what did you think of that at the end?
It was pretty good, yeah. I enjoyed it well enough.
Yeah, I mean, it was okay on its own, Like, that could have made an interesting story on its own.
Don't think you could have made a film out of it. But.
No, but, I mean, it would have made... Like, you could have done it as one of the pieces of the other stories, and it would have,
I know, I liked it conceptually all right. I just don't know how well, like, as a story, it lent itself to being a bridging sequence amongst a bunch of other stories, There was definitely merit in all of it. Just felt Lyra's went on too long.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't any longer than any of the other ones, but it just felt long to me because it was like, by the time it progressed into the second half of the story, it was just punch, 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 join me. No, punch, 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 give up your evil ways. No, punch, 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 and it's over. Well, no, it's not even over because, like, oh, he stabbed himself. Oh, we're drawing back dramatically. It'll be a good time to... Oh, no, we've cut to the outside of the palace as she comes out and gives a wee speech to the guards. Would you end? Would you just end?
So we're all over the place on this review.
Yeah.
The only thing I liked, he didn't, so, yeah. But anyway.
I said, this is a good way to introduce people to it. If you have friends that don't know anything about Green Lantern, make them watch it. They'll get the basics.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. My wife kind of watched some of it with me, and she was meh. But she's meh on a lot of stuff, so.
Green Lantern is not an easy sell. If you want to introduce somebody to Green Lantern, this is probably not the way to go about it. If you want to introduce somebody to Green Lantern, you should probably give them New Frontier.
New Frontier? Yeah, that's probably pretty good. And then maybe you could show them First Flight, but...
Yeah, you could probably get First Flight out of it.
See, I like this. I like this more than First Flight.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. Definitely. But, like, New Frontier is just the dude with a ring. That's all. That's it.
That's all you need to know.
Then it's a whole nother film given over to this crazy cop in space shit.
Yeah.
And like, that's just partitioning it.
My lunch group was trying to have me explain what Green Lantern is, and I was like,
yeah.
You're like, how much time you got?
Yeah, really. It's like, okay, we've got 45 minutes for lunch.
An hour and 45 minutes. Could you just cram about 2 films worth of stuff and maybe throw Ryan Reynolds in there?
Right. So, anyway, I guess we'll move on to that. Now, I had planned to go to this movie this weekend and just had other things happen, and I did not go. So I'm going to not bow out of the show, but I'm going to bow out of the conversation, and I'm going to let McFeely and Nicole discuss this. What will be most interesting is that if you don't know this already, they seem to have slightly conflicting views on the film. Now, I think Nicole's might be slightly skewed for a particular reason. So we'll see how this goes. But anyway, I'll unleash it on you all and ask questions as necessary.
People are gonna have to plug their ears.
So this is the spoiler section. If you've not seen the new Green Lantern movie and you want to, and you don't want to be spoiled, like there would be anything to be spoiled about, then
this movie contains no surprises.
Then don't listen to the rest of the show, I guess. Otherwise, anyway, please continue.
Green Lantern, that sure was a film.
So give us a synopsis. Give us like a 2-minute synopsis of the film.
Okay.
Who do you want it from?
Well, mine will be something like
Ryan Reynolds comes out not in a shirt.
Contains muddled, and I'd be like a flawed narrative attempting to encompass too many separate plot points from film. I do that for 2 minutes, and then you just go, well, Ryan Reynolds is in it, and all this stuff happened around him.
It's a story about a sexy man as he attempts to become a space cop.
I like that synopsis.
Is that basically the film? We're good? All right. Good night, everybody.
Okay, well, it's how do you sum this up? It's two films jammed into one. The film starts with a bit of a narration from, I believe it was Jeffrey Rush, as to Omar Ray, recounting the history of the Green Lantern Corps out of the gate. Yes, folks, out of the gate. That's how they chose to start the film.
Why?
Well, we'll get to that. And then immediately following a big CGI scene of rings in space, the first thing we see is we even get the recap of how Abin Sur defeated Parallax. That's in the first 30 seconds of the film. And then we see some aliens freeing Parallax, who has been imprisoned for 90 seconds or so. And then we get the title sequence.
You have got to be shitting me.
I am not shitting you. Yeah.
I thought it was fairly well done.
Depends on your definition of done.
You see, the actual things I was looking at were quite well done. I was just looking at them approximately 30 minutes too early.
Is this like Daredevil, the Daredevil movie, where it took them 25 minutes to tell me he loved his dad?
Hey, I liked the way the Daredevil movie did the origin.
Of course you did. See, damn it.
See, I didn't care for Daredevil.
Okay.
Oh, well,
anyway, let's not open a whole nother can of worms then. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, okay?
All right, but origin told through flashback works pretty well for Daredevil because he has Daredevil has to get to a certain point in his life before he is remotely interesting. So skipping over that large...
Has he gotten to that point?
In childhood. Oh, har. Well, he's going to. Mark Wade's series starts next month.
Yeah, well, we'll find out then. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, I'm sorry, I digress.
Then they would get the title sequence, and then it's Abin Sur's ship getting attacked by Parallax, and then Hal Jordan appears. And we get the obligatory Hal Jordan is a hotshot. He and Carol Ferris do perform a combat routine to prove the worth of some drone planes for a defense contractor. I'm being too general about this. We get introduced progressively to the different aspects of Hal's life until Abin Sur's ship crashes and he is whisked away and gets the ring. Look, I find it quite hard to sum this up because, in my opinion, like genuinely not being funny, it's in the wrong order.
It does sound like what you said, like it's not edited very well.
He gets the ring, and not much happens. He gets the ring. He puts it up to the lantern. He gets it back to his apartment, puts it up to the lantern, feels the knowledge of the oath flow into his head, says it. There's a bit of a poof, bit of light, and that's it. So then he goes out to a bar with Carol, and then some really boring, pat, romantic, cliche subplot wank wanders into the film.
That was your bathroom break point right there.
Oh, sweet Lord.
Was it on Run P? I need to check. I bet that's...
Yeah, it was. It
nice.
was.
Best
And then
app ever.
wanders again. And then Hal is attacked in the parking lot. And when he tries to lash out at them, a construct appears, his first construct. No
That
sooner
was
has
cool. I liked that part. I thought it was very well done.
Disappointed. It was a good way of having him discover his
It
powers.
actually surprised me. I wasn't expecting that to happen. So.
But no sooner has he made his first contract than off to Oa.
Wait,
Immediately.
you need to explain. The people that attacked him in the parking lot were
Oh, they were ex-Ferris aircraft workers who lost their job because Hal
because
beat
of
the
him.
drone plane.
Yeah.
He beat the drone
And they
plane,
lost
ruined
all
the
this money
contract,
for him.
They lost all their jobs. Not that has any fucking bearing on where the rest of the story goes. Just to point that out. Off to Oa. Gets his costume. 30 seconds or so of giant floating naked Ryan Reynolds. Good
There's
for the
nothing
ladies.
wrong with that 30 seconds. I'm sorry.
Not disputing there is, just feel it's worth pointing out because it's what most women attending this will be paying attention to.
Wait, close attention.
Meets Tomar Ray, gets a pocketed history of the Lantern Corps, meets Kilowog, trains with him briefly, meets Sinestro, quits, and heads back to Earth.
Quits?
Sinestro
because he
really,
can't.
Sinestro really took it too long.
Sinestro poods him in a sword fight, but Hal believes he can't hack it after knowing these aliens for 5 minutes, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes, literally. He gets a training sequence with Kilowog that's not even a montage. It's just one event follows the other. So Kilowog trains him for about 2 minutes, literally 2-3 minutes.
Well, no, that's when Sinestro comes in and
And then
interrupts,
Sinestro
though.
comes along. Yeah, no, he totally does. Yeah, but then Hal immediately quits thereafter.
Well, that's a lot to take on. That's a lot to take on.
Is, yeah, I'm just saying, all you need is a montage to convey that. What do you want to
We're gonna need a montage.
Some time has passed. Yeah. Hal goes back to Earth and yet performs heroism at a party, which was being held for a reason I've already forgotten, where Hector Hammond, who has previously been introduced while Hal was on Oa as the doctor called in to examine Abinsur's body.
It was a party to raise money.
Yeah, because he did money. Yeah, okay, so I guess there was some bearing on that. So Hector Hammond gets a jolt from the parallax energy that still saturates Abinsur's body, gets his powers, uses them to shoot his, was it his dad or was it Carol's dad? Somebody's helicopter out of the sky.
It was his dad. It was his dad.
Remember, he's got a bad relationship with his brother.
Well, you skipped a whole part. Hector was the one that was chosen to do the autopsy on Abin, and that's when he gets a shard of parallax into him. So he's starting to change, and he's able to understand or mentally understand what other people are thinking, and he could honestly hear what his dad truly thinking about him.
Parallax does that.
Parallax does that, yeah.
So basically, Parallax becomes like a magic MacGuffin where it gives Hector Hammond the powers that he normally has in the comic without Parallax having that ability.
I'm not holding that against it. Okay, I'm not even holding that against it.
That's bad, because that means there's worse things to come. So, okay.
So Hector,
well, the thing is, now Hector knows how his dad truly feels about him, and it's upsetting him, and so he takes out his revenge on his own father.
Takes the helicopter out, and Hal makes his first big public act of heroism by using his powers to save the helicopter. Then we get about 30 seconds of the Lantern Corps fighting Parallax in space. They keep telling us Parallax has destroyed whole planets. We never see it. And they fight him for a little bit. And I was at the cinema with my friend Jeff, and he could, he leaned over to me just the scene of Parallax. Parallax is more of a smoky color than just yellow energy, but he's this sort of big disc of smoke, and when the lanterns approach him, it just rises up out of the center. And Jeff just leant over and commented on his resemblance to the great trash heap from Fraggle Rock.
Oh my God!
Hello, Fraggles! Do you feel fear? Yes. So Parallax beats them in approximately 30 seconds. Then we get 5 minutes of Sinestro pontificating to the Guardians about how they need to fight fire with fire, fear with fear, and make a yellow ring.
What?
Yeah, that's not even the worst yet. We're not there yet. It also, that scene in particular epitomizes a big problem with this film, which is that long stretches of it are boring. I mean, that is the ultimate crime at an hour and 45 minutes. When you're trying to cram in as much as you're cramming, they accomplish the cramming by having characters stand around and talk about these mythological elements rather than actually seeing them put into play.
That's the
They
worst.
put the making of the ring in there.
Yes, we saw the ring spin around. You know, that's when we returned to Oa a few minutes later. It's like, the Guardians are all right. We must make a yellow ring.
All right.
All right?
I'm going to cut you off and say that I'm already annoyed at this film. It's like it sounds like someone needed to, like, give them a copy of maybe, like, some of the best, like, Green Lantern origin stories and just be like, try this. Secret Origins would have been fine, you know.
I've been saying that this film...
Emerald Dawn, maybe, you know.
Out with Parallax, Secret Origin with Parallax instead of Atrocitus was what I assumed this film would be. It wasn't. It was one film about Hal's origin and a second film about Parallax, just squished together.
You know, and it's...
So, what else happens then after?
I mean, you don't need all that. That's the thing that I don't understand. It's like, it's too many writers, too many film writers, especially when they're writing comic books. They're like, wow, this is an expansive universe. We have to explain this to the audience. You know what? No, you fucking don't. All right?
Green Lantern is I've said it a million times. I've said it already on this show. Green Lantern is a hard sell. It is a pretty stupid concept that needs to be handled very delicately. And their idea of handling it delicately was to fling everything at you in this film. There was nothing delicate about you. This film was like a clip show of all of the key elements of Green Lantern lore handled with appropriate respect that just never managed to come together to form a chronological, cohesive story.
You don't... I mean, like, first of all, I'm going to have a problem with the film. And, like, we talked about this with Thor, right? I have a problem with a film that doesn't introduce you to the POV characters, like, right off the bat. If you don't get a concept for who your POV characters are in the first 5 minutes of a film, there's a problem. And
I think they did that good with Hal, though. They introduced what kind of character Hal was like.
If they're opening up with, here's the Green Lanterns, this is the space universe, screw that. You know what? The audience doesn't even need to know that. You know what they need to know? That there's this thing called the Green Lantern Corps, and they have magic rings.
They don't need to know that at that point.
Well, not at that point. I'm saying later, right? But what do you need to know as an audience member? What do you really need to know about the Green Lantern Corps? And this is exactly what this goes back to what I told. Like I said, do you want the long story or the short story? The short story is that the Green Lantern Corps is a group of people who have magic rings and they protect the universe. That is all you need to know. Anything else beyond that is superfluous backstory stuff that you don't have to have.
Well, the thing is, one thing about the movie, I thought they did a good job with explaining the power of will. And I thought they did a good job with that.
But you can get that later. I mean, that's not even that is something that wasn't even a major element in the Green Lantern mythos until the last, 20 years?
That is like the first sentence of the film. They're talking about how the Guardians harness the power of will. You know, these are things that...
I think it's important because that's one of the things that people ask me about Green Lantern, and you have to explain to them. So I thought that was good that they explained it at the beginning.
But it's not something that's integral to that. I mean, like I said, the whole concept of like the willpower and the emotional spectrum, all that stuff, that's new. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, that's a new concept. It is not something that is inherent to Green Lantern. It's something that's come along and been retconned in over the last few years.
I can comprehend wanting to introduce the concept in the first film, absolutely. I just feel that it's not first 90 seconds material.
Exactly.
I mean, the whole idea of... Well, hang on. We got to finish summarizing this thing so we can go back and talk about what's truly wrong with the structure.
See, the things that you guys are talking about,
I'm really
I really
trying
don't
to
have a
skip
problem.
Like, Hal, okay, so Hal is a hero, whoop-de-doo. Carol recognizes him immediately in the only funny scene in the film, wherever she looks at him and says, "You think I wouldn't recognize you because I can't see your cheekbones?" So that was genuinely amusing and knowing as a gag. It was the only slightly meta gag that actively addressed the ridiculousness of an aspect of the film, where, Marvel's movies tend to be a little more acknowledging of the flat line of ridiculousness that all of this stuff rests upon, and is willing to toy with it, poke that line a little bit. Green Lantern, painfully po-faced, took everything serious as all hell.
I don't think so.
Well, I laughed once. That was that scene. I'm not even exaggerating. I laughed that one time in that one scene.
Because I know it's Ryan Reynolds. I know he's going to be pulling gags like Ryan Reynolds. So.
Yeah, I was expecting him to do something with his big goon head, but nothing happened. Okay, so hang on. Let's see what happens. So Hector Hammond is there. Hector Hammond does some bad things. Parallax makes mental contact with Hector Hammond, gets him to capture Carol and to destroy Green Lantern for him so that he may then come and claim the world.
Because he's afraid of one Green... this is Parallax that just wiped out 30 or plus Green Lanterns, right? And so he's going to have a goon wipe out one Green Lantern so that he can take over the Earth?
So Hal goes back to Oa, where they're just finishing the making of the Yellow Ring. And,
what?
Yeah, agree. It's basically, Sinestro says, "Make me a yellow ring." The Guardians go, "All right." Hal comes along and says,
"It was a little more than that. He didn't have to give him a little convincing."
Yeah, I think he had to give a second sentence of a
Oh my God!
I was basically like, "Make me a yellow ring. Make me a yellow ring." I don't know, guy. Go on. All right.
Oh my God!
Hal returns to Oa to tell them about the coming of Parallax. Says, "Don't use that yellow ring." And they go, "Oh no, man." And Hal goes, "Please." And they go, "All right." And then Hal goes,
so the Guardians are the Church of England? I mean, is this what we're...
Their resistance is completely token. They say, "We won't risk any more Green Lanterns." So Hal says, "Then don't. Just let me go alone." As if he wasn't living on Earth and felt it necessary to come so that he would be allowed to go back.
So
so then he goes, and he has a pretty decent overall, big blowout final battle with Parallax, and he throws it into the sun. Apparently he was reading the Sentry. A couple of pages from the Sentry movie got mixed in with the Green Lantern there. And that's it.
Holy hell.
There was a little bit more to it than that.
There were some other little touches in there, but you will notice how I have not had to draw attention to those little other things because they have fuck all bearing on the narrative. Like one of the earliest scenes after the opening sequence is Hal in his plane after he has climbed his plane high enough to cause the drone planes that are following them to stall out. Of course, his own plane does the same as well and starts to crash. And of course, he starts to get flashbacks to his dad's death. Which never comes up again. Then he goes to see his nephew.
No, it did come up again. You forget it did come up again.
When did it come up
in
again?
the bar. It was in the bar scene, and that's when he stormed out on Carol.
Because what did she say to him again?
You're something about criminy. You're trying to be like your father, and you're gonna end up that way.
In what manner did that shape the narrative?
He walked out on Carol and
then
got the lover's quarrel.
Right back in on her.
So
So then he goes to see his nephew at the birthday, and we see he has the bad relationship with the family. The brother particularly hates him because he's trying to live his life like his dad, as if that was going somewhere. Has a genuinely touching moment with his nephew. Good scene in which, his nephew asks him, I was really scared, were you? And he says, my job not to be scared, Family never appears again in the film. Goes to Oa, meets Tomar Ray, Kilowog. They have the brief training sequence, maybe 10 minutes total, Then Kilowog and Tomar Ray don't appear until the last 30 seconds of the film again. Kilowog takes credit for training Jordan, even though they only share 3 minutes on screen together. Sinestro has them fashion a yellow ring. Goes nowhere, has no contribution on the plot at all. Pieface is in there, not called Pieface, obviously, Thomas Kalmaku. He's his friend. He finds out that Hal is the Green Lantern. Has no bearing on the film. Pieface doesn't appear in the second half. Hal shows his powers to Pieface. There's a comedy moment where nothing happens because his ring's out of charge, so he has to charge it. Completely interrupts the scene to introduce that concept. Never comes up again.
So, never has the whole deal where, his ring is running low.
Never runs out of charge at a dramatic moment.
Which is the whole big fucking thing of, Silver Age Green Lantern is...
I mean, where was my scene of the whole... Because the Green Lantern Corps do nothing. They do nothing. They have 30 seconds of fighting Parallax in space and contribute nothing else.
A bunch of them died.
Yeah, well...
And Parallax is afraid to invade Earth because one fucking untrained Green Lantern is there? Are you shitting me?
He's got Abin Sur's ring.
Yeah,
so? It's not Abin Sur.
The ring that put him away, man.
Yeah.
And he killed Abin Sur, too, so, why
and
would
it's
he...
so he throws Parallax in the sun at the end, and he's used up all his strength, he passes out, and he seems to be drifting back into the sun, and then Tomar Ray, Sinestro, and Kilowog appear to save him. And that is literally the height of their contribution to the film. Now, I have been saying, since this film was just a concept in production years ago, that the core should not be in the first film. And I can absolutely understand anyone's desire to have them in the film, because they are such a big part of the lore, and they are such a huge part of everything the comics are doing with the just everything now. But... I just feel like it's too much too soon, and this film absolutely proves that, because they appear to be introduced just to say this exists, and then they contribute nothing to the film. So much of what I've just described: Pieface knows, ring needs recharged, core exists, yellow ring, bad relationship with the family, history of the dead dad, all of those forcibly included in the narrative, frequently derailing what story the film is managing to tell in order to be included, contribute nothing to the narrative, nothing to the story that the film is trying to tell, all solely included because that's how it is in the comics.
I could even see Sinestro, going to the Guardians and saying that we need to make a yellow ring, and then they say no, and then he goes off to the Weaponers and has them make one. That would even be something that wouldn't change the overall concept of the story if they wanted to make sure that there was a yellow ring, but it wouldn't make the Guardians look like flippant douches.
Well, one thing we haven't mentioned is that if you stay for the credits, you will get an extra scene. And if you've been paying attention to the scene or know anything, you will already have seen from space what the fucking extra scene is going to be in the credits. JD, would you care to hazard a guess at what the extra scene in the credits might be?
From space?
No, I'm just saying you could see it from space.
It was that obvious, he's saying.
What, that Sinestro becomes the
You got it.
Lantern? Yay! We didn't know that was going to happen. Which is
I
fine. I mean, I'm fine with that. But
no, you're not. No, you shouldn't be, because he doesn't undergo any kind of arc or development to bring him to that point where he dons the yellow ring.
Yes, okay. Qualifying that, yes, that would have been fine if it would have been a part of the story. I'm saying, that would have been brilliant, because Sinestro says, I'm going to make a yellow ring, and then the Guardians say, no, you can't make a yellow ring. And so Fucks Off goes and makes his own yellow ring, and then they say, you know what, fuck you, and you're out of the Corps, get the fuck out. And take his ring.
Instead, it's a case of, make me a yellow ring, because green obviously isn't powerful enough. Right then, made it for you. Oh, hang on. turns out green is powerful enough. No need to worry about that.
Well, the thing is, throughout the movie, you get little hints about how he is interested in fear, the element of fear.
But he's not. That's
well, no. To be fair, the idea of Sinestro mastering fear is one of those elements that has very cleverly, genuinely been grafted back upon pre-existing elements of his character by Jeff Jones in the comics. I mean, I'm not sitting here and saying that this needed to be more like the comics. It's my belief that this is hurt by its desire to fit in too many elements from the comics, but you're seriously robbing Sinestro of development if you take away the whole concept of Korugar and him being the greatest Green Lantern who dominated his people through fear.
But that's what I mean. But he didn't.
Jeff Jones very cleverly took that idea from the Silver Age, that John Broome idea of Sinestro using his powers to dominate his planet and making his people afraid of him, to extrapolate the whole idea of the element of the emotional spectrum and Sinestro being a mass.
Well, I think that's what's going to to be happening in the sequel.
Well, it can't happen in the sequel.
See,
but it can't because you see,
Sinestro's
origin is that he was kicked out of the Corps because Hal uncovered that he was subjugating Korugar with his Green Lantern ring, and that's why the Guardians booted him out. If you take that away, then all he becomes is a dick, and he doesn't have an interesting story.
Sinestro's whole thing is that he was genuinely doing something he thought was for the greater good. He's just a dick who wants, he didn't dominate his planet because he wanted power. He dominated his planet because he believed it was the best way to accomplish the goal of being a Green Lantern defined.
I think that's probably
that's
one reason why I don't have a problem with this movie, is because I already knew that they've got the sequel greenlit, and I was thinking, okay, so this is a setup for this.
But that's the problem. I feel like it sounds like I said, I have not seen this movie, but it sounds like the writers for this film got handed a big fucking story Bible by DC, and they tried to desperately write a story that was true to the story Bible instead of doing what they should have done, like they did with, say, Batman or maybe some other films, where they took the essence of what was there and wrote a good story to push that forward. And so it's like they're carried on by all this DC baggage that they don't need.
Well, it's landed tons of money. There's definitely going to be probably there is another sequel for sure.
I don't know, a couple of mil less than X-Men First Class, 12 million less than Thor.
Yeah, let me look it up on Movie Mojo right now.
This is 23% on Rotten Tomatoes. And this is Warner Brothers now. Warner Brothers, who are very cancel happy, and they can't even get Wonder Woman on television. I don't know. I wouldn't be too surprised.
I mean, how long has it been?
Bad word of mouth is only going to drive this down further and further. I wouldn't be too surprised if we didn't see another one of these.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, their weekend estimates have us at $52 million for Green Lantern. So if we go
65 and Thor was 65.
Yeah, because this will show opening weekend.
Well, I mean, I know that there's a lot of people angry who feel like the Earth stuff gets in the way of the space stuff, but it's my steady belief. I know people will disagree, but fuck them. That the first movie should have been an Earthbound movie. It should have been Hal fighting an Earth villain, Hector Hammond, whatever. I don't think Hector Hammond can carry a film, so do it the Secret Origin route. Have the big baddie be, I don't know if you want to make it Atrocitus, you want to make it Parallax, you want to make it Legion from Emerald Dawn, whatever was in Abbott Sur's ship, whatever it was, that can be your big baddie. And then when Hal beats it at the end, through strength and things he has learned on his own, it's like he feels too in the film. He feels too intimidated by the strength of the other Green Lanterns to keep on doing it. Okay, decent enough concept, but whenever you're grounding this thing on Earth, you already have a disapproving family whose opinion hurts deeper than some guys he's known for 3 minutes. Can perfectly, serve as a suitable substitute for the guilt that he wants to prove himself over. You've got a talking ring that can fill him in on the history and the cosmology and the use of his powers that you don't need
in the comics.
Exactly. Which is why you
here's
don't
a
need
question for you.
the lanterns in there to help him with the training. You know? And then I feel like the core should appear at the very end of this imaginary first movie. Probably just Sinestro comes to Earth, congratulates him for beating the baddie, and then the final scene of the film is he takes him off to Oa, and it's holy crap, there's more of these guys.
Yeah, and that would be great. Going to the next one.
Something more than what the film has led the audience to believe. He is part of something great.
Okay, so here's a question. It seems like a lot of origin stories, they seem to be over 2 hours long. Do you think it would have been worth their while to make this film at least 2 hours or maybe 3 hours long?
Oh, well, not 3 hours. I mean, it's already trying to do too much. I mean, simply trying to do too much is where this film falls down. And I was really shocked to hear it was only an hour and 3/4 long when I knew how much it was trying to do. Maybe I honestly don't think an extra 15 minutes would have solved anything.
Here's the thing though, like, and this is where like Green Lantern can ride. I think it had the potential to ride that line. It doesn't sound it has, but with a lot of other superhero stories, like, you have to have a bit of origin. Probably Superman is probably the next best one.
Yeah.
Because Superman, you don't really need to... All you need to know... I mean, it's like... I mean, again, you know, talking about All-Star Superman, that first page, that's all you fucking need. 4 panels. You know? Dying Earth, you know, dying planet, scientist, parent, you know, that's it. That's all you need. And he's from another planet, and he's got superpowers. You're doing Spider-Man, you've got to do that great responsibility bullshit. You've got to explain how the spider gets his powers. He's got to, you know, figure out webbing or whatever. You're going to do Batman. He's got to have all the stuff with his parents. You've got to have his training. I mean, you really have to, like, fit all those pieces together. Green Lantern, it's a fucking magic ring, okay?
It just tells him.
It's a magic ring.
You don't need a bat core or a spider core or a super core to walk him through his origin.
You don't have to
Whenever the thing that gives him his powers can actively talk to him and explain for the benefit of both character and audience how this works.
Honestly, I think the average moviegoer, people that don't know anything about Green Lantern, might have found that a little too impossible. A talking
I don't
magic
know
ring.
that it's any.
You get
I mean, it's not,
okay.
If it's made clear that it's an alien computer.
This is basic sci-fi storytelling. You get one give. You get one. Here's an unbelievable thing that you can believe, right? So in this, your one thing is it's a magic ring.
Magic ring.
That's all you need to know. It's a magic ring, and the audience will accept it.
Fear monster.
They're not going to ask you how it's made. They're not going to ask you how it works. They're not going to need to know anything about it other than it's a magic fucking ring. All you need to know. And they blew that opportunity by trying to give you a lot of weighty Jeff Johns history that the only way that you can get is by reading 30 issues of Green Lantern. And that's I mean, like I said, I haven't seen it. I'm qualifying that. I've not seen the film. I'm basing on what McFeely's saying.
Well, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. So.
But, I mean, you know, and I get it. Jeff Johns is cool. He writes good shit. You should read it. Not try to watch it in an hour and 45 minutes.
He's got an executive producer credit on this, and it's like, I almost want to say that the excess inclusion of comic book elements might be down to him and his great love for it, but I just feel that if he had a hand in it to that extent, he would have crafted a better story out of it. I mean, the way I look at it is that the pre-credit sequence should have been Hal as a child seeing his father die.
Yes! That's what you need. You've got to understand your POV character.
From the outset. And the first scene after the title sequence is as in the film, Hal and Carol flying the jets, doobity-boo. Except, here's the thing I didn't point out earlier. Whenever Hal's jet stalls and falls, like I was saying, he has the flashback to his dad, and he freaks out. He ejects, the jet crashes. And obviously that factors into the idea that it is about being able to overcome great fear. So they present him with a fear that must be overcome. Which is all well and good, except when the ring then comes for him, the audience has not yet witnessed the mightily courageous character that we are supposed to believe the ring comes for. You know, the ring is presented as seeking out the brave, and then it progressively reveals that it's not just the brave, you know, because bravery is not just doing stupid things, it is about being afraid and acting anyway. That's the point. But as that scene presents it to us, the ring has come for some chicken shit who bottled and jumped out of the falling plane.
So
Okay.
We don't get the idea. Hal should have landed that plane. That's exactly what happens in Secret Origin. Hal pushes a plane too far beyond its limitations and manages to set it down as a burning wreck and basically cockily walks away as it explodes behind him. Because
that would be brilliant. That's what you want.
Okay,
anyway, the first hint of anything alien should be when Abensher's ship's crashed.
Yes. Then you can fill in the blanks later.
Yeah, the ring can tell him, or the dying Abensher himself.
Or even if let's say they don't cut the core stuff out, they can explain it there.
Yeah, which they do anyway.
Oh my God! Please tell me you're lying right now.
Tomar Ray recounts the history to Hal after he's already recounted it to the audience about 45 minutes previously.
Didn't they watch Thor? Didn't they, they could have watched Thor and just been like, there you go.
Here's one for you. Remember that party I mentioned?
Mm-hmm.
And that's about, what's that, Nicole, about an hour into the film, 45 minutes to
What,
an hour
the party, it was about 45 minutes into it.
45. And it's at that point that we suddenly find out that Carol, Hal, and Hector Hammond all know each other. Now, these characters have been on in the movie for an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. Now, Hector's been off doing his own thing, and it's at this point that we find out that they're all chums from way back, by the way. See, that's what the scene you get after Hal has landed the jet. We have a party, we establish our character relationships outside of a work environment, and it's probably at the party where the spaceship is seen to crash overhead. And you go from there. Honest to Christ.
So do you think that was the major problem with the movie, in your opinion?
Primarily
is that it just wasn't editing? It was the editing and...
Like the script. It sounds like the script and the editing is where it really fell apart.
See, because I still enjoyed it. I still had a fun time watching it.
I can't say I hated it. I can't.
The thing is, okay, it was visually stunning. I watched it in 3D.
I didn't. I watched it in 3D.
I thought the 3D was great. It was just, I love the colors that they did. I like the things that the 3D element that they actually use. I just had fun watching it on the big screen.
I must say the costumes did actually turn out looking very nice. After all of the great fears that we had at the very start, I think they must have gone in there and nipped and tucked the lines to make them look more like the traditional costumes, because the light flowing through them and everything and the glowing chest pieces all worked out looking pretty decent. The mask was still pretty terrible.
Yeah, I didn't care for the mask. But
the mask doesn't make sense anyway. And they even make fun of it, so why do it?
Well, I mean, to make a knowing meta joke, which is really more Marvel's territory than DC's.
Right.
I thought it was very beautiful on the screen. When they went to Oa, I'm like, oh, this looks wonderful.
Generally.
When they did the big shots of all the core together, I thought that was really great. The shots of all the Guardians around, I thought that would look really good, and the contrast of the green and their red robes hanging down, I'm like, that looks beautiful.
Yeah, so far this does make Green Lantern the lowest, not by much, but the lowest opening of so far the 3 comic book films that have opened. But it's got Transformers to compete against in 2 weeks. It's got Harry Potter coming up as well.
Harry Potter will take the summer. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
Harry Potter will take the summer.
I mean, come on. Right now, Hangover is leading the year. So, I mean, So, come on.
And it was just this past week that, before that, it was Fast 5.
Yeah. Yeah, Pirates is coming up. Their opening weekend was huge, but I don't. It's not like a lot of people were fired up about seeing Green Lantern, despite the fact they put huge fucking advertising comics in the middle of their issues this week. But
there's a very funny video The Onion did this past week about Green Lantern. Everybody should check that one out, where it's basically the opening is of Green Lantern. It is the newest comic book movie based on a franchise that DC ensures us did previously exist. Are you excited for Green Lantern, sir? Yeah, sure, Green Lantern. Why not?
Why not? Indeed.
Yes, Green Lantern certainly will be blessed with incredible powers and will have to overcome obstacles that his new abilities will give him the strength to supersede in this exciting summer adventure. Well, it looks like Greg Lantern is set to be a big summer smash.
God.
It's funny because it's true. Tell you what, the cast did a pretty good job, though. It's kind of like making not exactly making a silk purse out of a sow's ear or anything, but they did pretty good. Mark Strong, in particular, just sort of.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Sinestro, because Sinestro looks really cool as well. I kept looking at Sinestro because it's a very nice. He's got this little bit missing out of his eyebrow.
Yeah, I was wondering that.
The closer that I looked at it, I could see that there was actually a very faint scar just way down his face, and I was like, it made me wonder, ooh, what's that from? It wrote a lot of character into him, and Mark Strong did a very good job as him. And Ryan Reynolds was all right. I still maintain he was pretty badly miscast as Hal Jordan. He did big, tall, goon head on him. He doesn't look.
He's got a beautiful head. Don't you say that?
He doesn't look like Hal Jordan to me.
Well, but that
Deadpool, right?
It didn't even look like. Even in the movie, it didn't look like Deadpool. So. Deadpool looks like hamburger meat. So.
Peter Sarsgaard pretty much just chewed the scenery as Hector Hammond. He was the one guy who seemed to be trying to have a little bit of fun with what he was doing. Blake Lively was fucking despicable.
Wow.
Yeah, she was she just went.
You're just mad that she didn't get her Star Sapphire.
And fucking sake, I would. No, let me tell you no, believe me. If I was looking for a little candy to enjoy in that film, it wasn't for space-faced bent.
If she gets her Star Sapphire ring, if they go to the whole Rainbow Corps in the next film, oh my God, I will throw things.
Just spent the movie standing around looking confused.
I do have to say, I hate
to scare an emotion out of her, but just they jangled the keys from offside, and it caused some kind of reaction in the actors.
Like the poor girl that played.
Like Blake.
I have no previous association with that woman. I know nothing of her. But I would not object to never having to see her again.
Oh.
I'm afraid that opening weekend may be enough to solidify another film, but I don't know. What was the budget for this? That's what I was going to look at.
It was $200 million.
It was mega bucks.
But the thing is, there's so many graphics in it. It's 3D as well.
And that does, tend to bring down the next.
Half the take, though. 3D made up less than half the take of the opening weekend.
Yeah. So, I mean...
He's on backslide lately. And there was something else I was going to moan about. What was it?
145. That does seem really short. Wow.
Did you like Angela Bassett's character?
Oh, my
She was
God. What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? She did pretty well, She's a decent performance. She's Amanda Bassett, by the way, JD. Plays Amanda Waller. Who appears in what seems like it's going to be some kind of Nick Fury-esque role, maybe intending to go somewhere larger. She's the woman who calls in Hector Hammond to do the work. She's a little tall and not fat enough, but whatever,
What's up with that?
Yeah, what is up with that? But she even gets a bit of a backstory when Hector reads her mind and sees a history and sees how her family dies, and she gets flung through a screen of plate glass and is so unimportant to the remaining hour to 45 minutes of the film that they don't even bother to touch on whether or not she died.
Oh my God!
Wondered.
Wow. Did they even say checkmate? Like, if they would have just said...
No, there's just Amanda Waller. She was Dr. Amanda Waller.
What?
I don't even know Amanda Waller's a doctor. And it's like there's this bit where they want to repeatedly stress that this is the first time Earth has had alien contact as well. So, fuck you, Superman. We'll not have a Justice League movie then, shall we? Okay, Grant.
Nice.
Take a leaf out of Marvel's book? What?
No.
We can carry on doing our own thing. It's been working so well for us so far.
Yeah, really. Like,
don't... That's one thing I should have told you about this. When I went to the midnight showing, okay, the big opening scene when it had the DC logo and the Warner Brothers logo, this one guy's like, "This isn't Marvel."
Truth hurts, doesn't it, bitches? Truth hurts.
It's like, you don't move in the Green Lantern, D.
Oh, wow. So I always like to look at like budgets and things. So so far Thor has 176 million is what it's made domestically in the U.S. Its budget was 150 million, so it has made its budget. Bravo there. First Class has made 119 since June 19th. Or no, as of June 19th. I'm sorry. When did it open? Opened June 3rd. So it's really only been open about 3 weeks at best. And they've already their budget was 160, so I think they're probably on track to make their budget as well.
Well, with the foreign grossings, it's 282.
I always make those kind of a wash because usually that is the foreign make usually makes up like their marketing budget, which doesn't get included within the production budget. So I usually call that a wash.
I feel like X-Men First Class will probably do very well in the foreign market though, because it's got that wonderful Brit poppy 1960s.
Oh yeah. So Green Lantern does have the largest budget of all of those at $200 million. So
what about Captain America?
The extra $8 million they threw at it in the last month to try and fix the CGI?
Yeah,
probably.
You know what? And I think that was a good choice on their part because, like I said, seeing it in 3D with the CGI, it turned out beautiful. I thought.
Yeah, if that $8 million was used to bring it up from the standard scene in the trailer to what we got in the film, that was money well spent, at least.
Yeah. So I can pull up. So we'll see as far as we go. I mean, I may keep this updated because I'm interested in seeing how the different comic book movies compete. So we'll see. I just don't see Green Lantern making that budget. I don't. It'll be close.
Probably on track to make budget, but I think Bad Word of Mouth is going to hit it pretty hard after the opening weekend.
Oh, Transformers in 2 weeks, and Harry Potter close on the track of that, and then Captain America
is going to make stupid money again.
It is. Oh my God, so much. It is just licensed to print money. So
yeah, Harry Potter will be the #1 film of the year. I'll take bets on that right now.
We'll see. It always competes with. It always tends to come out in the same year as Pirates, and those two usually go at it. So that'll be interesting to see. But anyway, so interesting discussion about the film. Like I said, I've not seen this. I'm gonna try to see it this week.
Yeah, get you to weigh in.
And then I'll if I have any different thoughts, then I'll definitely be sharing those. But based on just things told about the story, I can't imagine.
Go see it in 3D.
Too much. Yeah, I do want to see it in 3D.
Versus Parallax.
God, I can't. Why? I should have known. Like as soon as they said Parallax was gonna be the first movie, I was like,
too much too soon.
Yeah.
Parallax being the villain is a symptom of the way they tried to do too much too soon.
Yeah, that's too big. Like that's something.
It's like I can argue with anybody who wants the core in the first film. You know, they are such an intrinsic part of everything. I can see why a film without them would feel very empty. But I think that their non-presence in this film exemplifies why the first movie should have been an Earth-based thing that didn't worry about massive alien threats. And it's just too much too soon.
So many of these things, though, now are really thought about in that 3-film arc. And
if they were thinking in terms of 3 films, what the fuck were they thinking then, basically?
What they're thinking is they had to do something...
What the hell were they thinking of putting in the second film?
Sinestro, and that's exactly what they're going... They want...
Okay, well,
they're trying to
get
Sinestro.
Go?
The Rainbow Corps and Blackest Night, or something like that. The Black Rings will come in by the end.
The way I see it is, first movie, Earth-based story, Hal learns his Pirates Corps, turn up at the end. Second movie, takes place whatever amount of time, so he's incredibly had time to build up friendships within the Corps. Details the fall of Sinestro, probably involves Manhunters as the villains.
Mm-hmm.
That
would seem logical. Yeah,
we'll see what came before them. Maybe Sinestro has used them somehow to dominate his planet. Details the fall of Sinestro, then culminates. He probably doesn't even get the Yellow Ring in the second movie. In the third movie, Yellow Ring and Sinestro and Parallax for a finale.
It's really though. I can kind of see where you're kind of in this rock and a hard place because you want to open it up like you're going to get 3 films, but you have to do it like you're only going to get 1. You know what I mean? It's such a weird place to be.
First Flight essentially skips over that first film I have put forth there, which is basically because they did it already in New Frontier. Not that those are related, but they said that they decided to essentially skip over the Earth-based portion of Green Lantern's origin for First Flight because they'd already covered it in their previous animated movie. And then the First Flight is your space-based adventure, which works pretty well as a Green Lantern origin story, but it does feel a bit like it's still too much too soon. And that managed to functionally introduce Sinestro, make him a believable character, and see him turn to the Yellow Pyre and actually get the ring and go on a rampage at the end in a way that worked. So maybe you can do that for the end of the thing as well.
So, I don't know. Like I said, we'll see. I mean, like I said, it's all going to depend on whether we get another film, where they go, what they try to do. Hey, they could always reboot.
Well, the thing is, I plan on watching this movie again. I had fun watching it. I thought it was...
God, no.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I think any of these, it's just like anything. You got to check it out at least once, form your own opinions. You know, that's worthwhile.
Once, yeah, but next time I look at this will be maybe when it's £5 in a bargain bin.
Rip. Anyway, torrent. So, not that we condone that here on Fanboy Versus or the TF Radio Network.
Ryan Reynolds will get my money every time.
God,
and thus we see the...
so wrong.
But that's the kind of the funny thing, because there's nothing like that for dudes in this at all.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
I mean, but
come on, Blake Lively showed off some good leg.
Oh, she's there, but it's like, oh my God, it's wonderful that she has a leg or whatever.
It's great that she has like body parts.
Hair and face, like, she seems a bit young, frankly, to be playing Carol Ferris. I didn't particularly find her believable as a company runner or as a pilot. No, she was just. Are we sure she wasn't made out of CGI? Just floating along there.
Wow. Nice.
No, I mean, she's like the only woman in the film. There aren't any other females, women, girls. There's not one of them anywhere.
Wow.
Angela Bassett,
like
hello.
Oh, sorry, that's right. Well, this movie definitely does not pass the Bechdel test.
There were some female aliens in the background.
Oh, I do love a purple girl.
Anyway, so, okay. So, all right. Well, I think we'll leave it there. Like I said, if I have any other thoughts next week, maybe by the time I've seen it, we'll...
I will be interested to hear your thoughts, and I would wish
out.
Triplette was here as well. Kilby's not even in the chat to have called in to comment on all of this.
I know. Maybe we'll, like I said, we'll
Kilby and Triplette, they said that their opinion of it was that it was a film made as if the superhero movie revolution never happened.
What do you think about that? I mean, do you...
This was I would generally agree with that. It seems to be made to some really outdated standards. This is not part of the new wave of superhero films that Iron Man ushered in. This is something that was... This is an X-Men or a Spider-Man approach to the thing. It just sort of hooks it all in there, now that time has marched on and we're able to look back on the Raimi Spider-Man films, this is perhaps a clumsier Spider-Man one.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So, all right, well, cool. Well, hey, that's going to be our show for this week. So, next week, hopefully we'll have more comics. Hopefully we'll have Triplette. And I don't know what we'll be talking about at the end of the show. Probably won't be a movie.
Spidey dies next week.
Oh, he does. So Triplette will be...
Death of Ultimate Spidey is next week.
Triplette will be talking about that for sure. So,
the top of the show thing.
That's a decent event. Should I even read that? Do I have to pick that up? Man.
Well, guys, it's going to be in a polybag.
Oh, man.
But don't worry, it'll be ruined before you even pick it up.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's reported in the newspaper.
Yeah, I know. I'll just read it on Marvel.
I literally only have like 6 comics next week, so I can't remember anything major that's happening.
Wow. So we'll see about that. But
so tune in for that.
So, anyway, check us out, tfradio.net or fanboyversus.com. We also have that domain as well, and I often forget to mention it. You can go to tfradio.net/live every 4:30 Eastern Time or 9:30 GMT time to PM to check out the show on Sundays, which is when we do the show live. You can participate in the chat. We sometimes comment on wonderful things the chat says. Somewhere between Ustream and Justin TV, you can find us. Usually one or the other of those works. Also, don't forget that you can watch the show as well. We are on YouTube as well as blip.tv. You can check us out on your Roku or any of those boxes as well. We do push to those. So if you want to watch the show on your TV, check that out as well. Please follow us on Twitter. You can find us at Twitter either through the main TF Radio page, which is at TF Radio. We've got a Twitter feed there, as well as the Fanboy Versus feed as well, which is at Fanboy VS. You can also go to tfradio.net, check out all of our Twitter feeds. Our personal Twitter feeds is there as well. We typically banter at each other through the course of the week. In particular on Wednesdays when new issues come out and those sort of things. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email us or tweet us as well through the show.
I prefer suggestions, too, for good
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
If you've got stuff that you're reading that you're like, hey, they ought to talk about this, let us know. We may not be completely aware. I mean, McFeely works at a comic shop, but that doesn't mean he knows everything or knows.
I'm
history
painfully
and everything.
limited. You know what I talk about. It's like I'm
So-
always
I like
successfully
more of the
managing to
obscure
influence you guys, but you
I
find
like
that
more
I
of
don't
the
get
obscure
influenced
stuff,
too easily.
so.
Yeah, so we're always welcome to suggestions. I think I've seen a few suggestions, but yeah, definitely. If you've got something that you like that you think we ought to check out and review on the show, let us know.
Really big
Really great
Really
shoe.
big shoe. This was a really big shoe.
So it did turn out to be a big show, bigger than we had expected. So check all that out. Anyway, it's a big summer. We're just at the beginning. There's a lot more comic book stuff coming.
Flash,
So this is,
a bunch of Flashpoint happening.
yeah, and comic stuff event that we're in the middle of as well. So this is a good time to be in comics, I think. It's an interesting time, if nothing else.
A lot of changes in the
September
future.
will-
Yeah. So, and we're talking about it all here on Fanboy Versus. So, good stuff. Like I said, please some suggestions. If you really have anything, or if you want us to interview somebody, we haven't done an interview in a while. So we might have to do something like that soon. So if you have a creator or someone you want to talk to, let us know. I'll do my best to try to get a hold of them. So anyway, that's it. Anything else before we go?
I got nothing.
We got nothing. All right.
Enjoy Green Lantern.
Yeah, go check out Green Lantern if you haven't.
Try and enjoy Green Lantern.
You know.
I enjoyed it.
So anyway, all right. Well,
Different
awesome.
reasons.
Well, anyway, again, for all of us here at the show, for McFeely, for Nicole, and for Triplette, who couldn't be here today, thanks so much for being here. And please tune in next time when it'll be Fanboy Versus.
This has been Fanboy Versus. Visit us at tfradio.net for show notes and to subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on Twitter at tfradio for news and updates. Like the podcast? Leave us feedback on iTunes. Copyright 2011 Radio Free Cybertron.